Hi, I'm Laura from Opeeka, and I'd like to introduce you to the Questionnaires module in P-CIS. P-CIS stands for Person-Centered Intelligence Solution. It's a one-of-a-kind visual assessment software, turning assessments collected over time into easy-to-interpret visual tools and reports. The P-CIS Questionnaire module makes data useful and accessible to support treatment and intervention planning for staff and supervisors. The Questionnaire module gives you insights at a glance, from a graph of scores over time to status icons to color-coded scores. What we see here is a CANS assessment, but P-CIS can work with nearly any assessment in human services practice. The Questionnaires module starts with a graph at the top, showing the total score over time across assessments. Right now, the scores include items that were identified as either a need for focus or a strength to build. You can adjust the visualization in real time using the toggles on the left. The hand icon identifies needs for focus, the pin, needs in the background, the barbell, strengths to build, the arm, strengths present, the triangle, underlying items. The icons used here are used throughout the module to highlight items of interest. In this example, we are walking through a sample CANS assessment for Alan. We see that Alan has had 4 assessments between February 2018 and March 2019, that he has been in the program for 399 days as of his last assessment, and that he has seen some change over time. We're going to review his scores more closely and then add a new assessment for him. Taking a look at the graph, we see Alan started with 12 items, then rose to 13 and 15 over the course of about a year, and his last assessment shows a significant progress made. Scrolling down, we see Alan's past 4 assessments, left to right, first to last. Color-coded boxes draw attention to his highest scores over time, his places of highest need. These are the items that most likely have been part of building Alan's treatment or intervention plan over the past year. Looking at the first domain, we see that Alan started with a high level of need in family functioning, living situation, social functioning, recreational. We see that high needs were discovered or emerged at school with behavior, achievement, and attendance. Then as we scan left to right, it's easy to see where he's made progress. So where social functioning and recreational started as high needs, they are now in the background, and school behavior and achievement are now completely resolved. And we can see that so easily with a view like this. Now let's talk about the icons that we saw at the top. The status icons that show to the left of the assessments are based on the most recent assessment, so in this case, Alan's 4th assessment. The icons have default properties based on the threshold scores set by the agency. Once an agency has determined thresholds for these items and set the defaults, they're completely automated. So for Alan, we see that in the life functioning domain, which is a needs domain, wherever his score was a 2 or higher, there's a hand for that item, showing this is a need for focus. Where his score is a 1, there's a pin, showing this is a need, but it's a background need, something to keep in mind. And where his score is a 0, there's no icon. In the strengths domain, it's similar, with a barbell for scores of 2 or higher, showing this is a strength to build, and an arm for scores of 0 to show the strength is present. Watching the icons and scrolling down, we see that we're working on interpersonal in the strengths domain and that we have several strengths present. We see there are a handful of risk behaviors in the background to keep in mind. And we see that there is a cluster of need in the child behavioral and emotional needs domain that has persisted over time. In this way, color coding and status icons help us take in all of Alan's assessments together, visualizing his progress over time, so we can continue to focus our energy on addressing persisting needs while at the same time celebrating strengths and skills built. To take a closer look at his most recent assessment, let's view it in the report section, where the story map takes information off the page and puts it into something even more useful for building our intervention or treatment plans. These are the same scores we just saw in Alan's most recent assessment. On the left side, we see underlying needs. This is where we see any traumas or exposures that Alan has experienced. So we see that Alan has experienced sexual abuse, and that information is here to inform any planning we do. On the right, we see a list of needs in the background. We see a few caregiver items, the risk behaviors, sleep, social functioning. According to Alan's scores on these items, they are not top priority needs that need a lot of energy or focus, but they are here to keep in mind. In the middle, we see our focus items. On the left, we see all the needs for focus. Any item that had a score of 2 or a 3, these were all the items with a hand icon. And these needs for focus can be rearranged in the story map to match the priorities we've set for Alan. So let's say for Alan, our top priority is anger control. We click and drag to the top. Maybe second is anxiety. We click and drag it under anger control. And the priority levels automatically update. Here on the right, we see a list of strengths to build or use. Here's the interpersonal item he's working on. And here are the strengths present, such as cultural identity, educational setting, and family strengths. Let's take a look at how to create a new assessment for Alan. I'll scroll down and click Add. Using the date picker, I can choose the assessment date. If his last assessment was March of 2019, then perhaps a June assessment would fit. I'm going to copy previous, which is one way to start the assessment, and here you can see it copied over. I have several options when filling in the assessment. The quickest way is to just use my keyboard and quickly tab through. There's also a drop-down function, or I can expand In the expanded view, I see the rating detail, where I choose the item score. Here in the expanded view, I also have the option of adding notes or marking an item as confidential. There are a few reasons you might flag a question as confidential, and this feature is very important. Maybe the item was something Alan didn't want to talk about in a team meeting. Maybe it was too personal. Or maybe it's something that's protected and needs a release before it can be revealed. Whatever the reason, there's an option to mark confidential and to add notes on the item as needed. However I add the scores, you can see that the graph will automatically update as I go. Each scored item drives these reports as well as the story map for the person. Before we save, let's look at how you might customize the assessment. The questionnaire module is automated and works great as is with no customizations needed. But as we scroll down, you see that many items have two icons available, one dark and one light. This is when the assessment is in edit mode. The darker icon is the one that's selected, and the lighter icon is the alternate available. So you can choose to change the status of an icon. These defaults are set up by the agency ahead of time, and again, these are optional. But let's say in Alan's case, where social functioning and recreational have improved, And the improvement in his score has dropped those items below the threshold for needs for focus and has moved the items to background needs. So there's a pin. But I know that we need to keep momentum going in these areas, that they need to remain a focus in our treatment planning. I can choose to override the default and instead select the hand. This identifies these items as needs for focus here in the questionnaire module, in the graph at the top, and in the story map. So the score remains true, but the module and story map adjust to support the specific work I'm doing with Alan. This concludes our walkthrough the Questionnaires module in P-CIS. Thank you for joining me.